are listening to the Practicing People's Podcast. I'm CJ Hammond.
And I'm Jordan White. Together, we'll be taking a journey into the practices that help us align with our mind, body, and soul.
So take a deep breath, release, and remain curious as we explore new ways to enhance our lives.
What's up, everybody? Such an honor to introduce our guest today. You guys may notice we have some type of resemblance. This is my sister, Alex, and again, we are just so grateful to have you on the show. As a licensed integrative nutrition health coach, Alex believes health and wellness begin with understanding and knowing who you are by identifying your needs, restoring rather than escaping, and overcoming the obstacles that stand in the way of achieving your goals. And as a health coach, she helps clients detox their bodies, lives, and lifestyles. She educates them on how to have self-discipline and accountability, and she guides them in discovering sacred ways to eat, sleep, and acquire healthy self-care practices that are bio-individual to their exclusive needs. Sis, Alex, thank you. Welcome.
Well, I am honored to be here with the two of you, the OGs. So thank you for having me.
That we do. We go way back. We've known each other. Actually, it has to be about the same time. Me and Jordan, about 25 years. So I've known you for forever. So I've known you since. Actually, I don't think anybody in the White family's ever been short, but I've known you since you were probably about the same size as me. And I'm just so impressed. I've been able to watch your journey through, obviously, social media is a large part of it. But what I will say first and foremost is how impressed I am about how dedicated you are to the lifestyle that you've chosen. And I was asking Jordan about kind of what you were up to, and I couldn't think of a better guest. And he was like, yeah, Alex is definitely the perfect guest for this, because it would seem to me, and hopefully these other guests as we continue this, that your lifestyle is built upon practices or foundations that you've incorporated into your life. And my first question is as a integrative health coach, what can you expand upon that a little bit more? I love the fact that you're incorporating all these things and trying to merge them into one, but tell me what it looks like to, like, if I was your client, or tell me kind of what that whole process of going to Alex and saying, I'm looking for someone to turn my health around looks like.
Yeah, so essentially, an integrative nutrition health coach bridges the gap between emotional and nutritional wellness. So to simply put it, like, everything we do drives our decisions around food, and everything we choose to eat has, a big motivation in how our emotional wellness works. And so when someone comes to me and they're like, I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, 95% of my clients are like, I want to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, that's the easiest part. But the hardest part is, okay, after 3 months of working together and, they shed weight. Usually people drop 12 pounds in 3 months. Then it's the next 3 months that they're like, oh, I have these habits that kind of get in the way of these goals and, them being sustainable. So, yeah, when people come to me, it's really about vanity and outside, like, appearance, and then they realize, like, no, health is holistic. It's also about the food that fuels us off the plate. It's about, how much we love our job, how much physical activity we have, our relationships, our social life, our home environment, our home cooking, and our creativity, and all these spaces that we tend to get stuck and build these habitual behavioral patterns. And, it all drives our awareness around food or lack of. So I really just guide people based on their specific lifestyle and help them change habits and build new ones.
Yeah, amazing. I, that word integrative is so cool. And that's what I kind of heard in that answer is just like there's this whole integration around, kind of how we're eating, our thoughts behind it, our
Mm-hmm.
spiritual self, right? Like there's just so many different connections that people feel, it seems like at least, are
Yeah.
one-offs in different buckets, but really it's all connected. So I'm just curious for you, um, talk a little bit, or could you let us know a little bit about just your own personal journey with this and how
Mm-hmm.
did you kind of come to this place and talk to us a little bit about how this all unfolded for you.
Yeah. Honestly, because I'm my first client. I'm my
Mm,
best client. And, as an organization, if you're not living your message, you know, you're not authentic. And so I had to reflect and look at myself like, how do I support myself on a daily basis? And that's really how it started. And I was working for Juan in the restaurant industry, culinary creative. And I really wasn't feeling good because I was doing all this marketing, and I was just around so much food. And well, I did learn, like, I had a better relationship with food because I learned, like, sourcing matters, quality matters, and I just became so educated. But I was tasting things that I would never even think to taste, like duroc pork, squid, like things that just I shouldn't even be eating, and I got really sick. And so that's what really motivated, like, oh, okay, like it is all about it. You can't just eat whatever you want and expect your
mm,
body to just be a machine and process it. So that's what kickstarted this whole wellness journey. And then I became an esthetician, and I didn't want to just be an esthetician that, like, you know, patch things up for women in the sense of like Botox, or not that I'm saying that anything's wrong with that, but there's a huge lack of self acceptance in the beauty industry. And so I became a holistic esthetician, and I worked for Tata Harper. And that's where I became really indebted into um, this wellness space, because I started meeting holistic dentists, functional and integrative doctors, and just this world became, it's small, but it became so big, and I realized that there are so many more options. Um, and I was one of her national trainers, and I facilitated the central and southeast of the United States, and I was traveling. I would be home for like 2 weekends or maybe like a week per month. And so I started booking my hotels around Whole Foods
there you go.
because, when you travel, it's really easy to get off track. And, so I would always book my hotels close to Whole Foods and based off their gym that they had. And I would go to the gym in the morning. I'd go to Whole Foods. I'd get like a big cup of oatmeal, some berries, probably make a salad. And then everyone that would go out for lunch and like eat a big lunch from, a corporate restaurant that I don't like to support. Um, I would go back to Whole Foods and hit the salad bar and make this like delicious, beautiful rainbow salad and drizzle it with olive oil and balsamic vinaigrette. And that's how I sustained and maintained the lifestyle. And I know I'm the expert, so I'm a little bit more extreme, but that's what I did for 2 years. And then it kind of got to a point for me where I was like, okay, I'm still in this holistic world, but I'm training people and I'm also providing services to women that are buying $1,000 worth of skincare products that, one, it's not going to make them feel better about their skin. I'm the one that makes them feel better about their skin. And two, if someone had problematic skin, which is what I specialized in, I knew 90% of the time they were having issues with their skin because of what they were eating. Or, it was what they were putting on their skin. So I just felt really conflicted, and I was like, this isn't my purpose. And I know my purpose is bigger than building regimens and selling for a company. The intention was clear that, it was a non-toxic company, but there's just more. So, yeah, I signed up for IIN, which is the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. It's a vocational school in New York City. And I became licensed, and it started with me. And, waking up and putting my best foot forward every single day, because just like you said earlier, it's the choice, the life that I've chosen. And every day we have a choice. And, it just comes down to, I told you, what are you doing with your fork? What are you doing with your fingers? And what are you doing with your feet? And if you just simplify it like that and reassess and stay disciplined, magic happens.
They say that for me again. If you do it, what are you doing with
Your fork, your fingers, and your feet.
I like
So,
that.
yeah, expand on that a little bit. So, what are we eating?
So, what are we eating or not?
Uh-huh.
Fingers. Okay, are you being productive? Are you being creative? Are you scrolling your life away? Are you reading a book? Are you how are you perfecting your craft with your hands? And then your feet. How often are you moving? Where are you going? Where are your feet leading you to? You know, and it's just like that's like my little reflection piece that I'm not perfect, so I have to ask myself that sometimes. um and I ask my clients that all the time.
That's really cool. I had never heard I've never heard that in all my days. That analogy you just used. I'm going to be keeping that one. That's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, like, if you're having an off day, and I just had this conversation with someone the other day, it's like, man, I woke up groggy, like I'm not feeling my best. And that's the other side of it, is like, are you focusing on facts or are you focusing on feelings? And when you focus on facts, it's like, okay, well, what did I eat the night before? Did I eat something that was like super heavy, hard to process, or hard to digest? And what time did I eat it? So that's going to have a big effect on how you feel the next day. And you don't always have to feel, you don't, you can just look at that and be like, oh, that's why I feel that something's wrong, instead of being like, oh, this is another hard day. Like, you know, you make it more than what it is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, how much would you correlate with someone's diet, their everyday diet, to much of what comes about, the choices that they make, the kind of lifestyle they're living? It seems like to me what you're pointing at is there's a direct correlation between what the fork is and then how it affects everything else.
Yeah. Every bite you take is either lifting you up or pulling you down. So food is energy. Like, if you're eating things that were made from a factory and chemicals, like, your body's not going to receive it the same way as if it came from the soil, because that's real life energy, and it has a completely different effect. And if you're again, and then two, I don't want to gross anybody out, but when it comes to protein intake, yes, I know our options now are a little bit limited because of cost and what inflation has done, but my family nor I, we do not eat anything that's not wild caught or pasture raised or uh, grass fed and grass finished. Because if you look at a cow and you look at their emotional well being, and if they're stuck with like 100 million other cows and they don't go anywhere, they don't see sunshine, they don't eat grass, they're fed this like they're either fed corn or grain, um, and they're not living a happy life. Like our emotions are stored in our tissues. So you're eating a sad cow. And, or, if you're, I'm going to get a little deeper. If you're an old blood type and you're eating a cow that's fed grains or corn, you're in your blood type, like those are both in a void. It's not going to digest the same because there's all these other like byproducts that come with that cow. So yeah, everything's connected. We're all connected on a much deeper level than we even understand.
Mm. Wow. We're just getting into this discussion,
Yeah.
and look where we went. I mean, first of all, there's like 5 practices that have been mentioned already. Love that you consciously, when you were traveling, asked to like be in a healthy environment, right? Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
be next to a Whole Foods. You got me flying all over the planet or all over the
Mm-hmm.
states. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in a position to where I can help myself, and I really hope that lands with people that travel. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just always on the
Mm-hmm.
road, so I can't really do much about it. It's like, are you sure?
Yeah. I think that's also, what I do as a health coach is um, I help people build their round tables and help them pick who sits at that round table. And you'd be surprised at how many people are not good at being advocates for themselves and will just slave away, because someone else is writing their check when it's like, it doesn't, no, you have to set the standard. You tell them how they treat you. And for me, it's like, again, I was traveling all over the country. I'm going to make sure it took a little bit more work because eventually I booked my own travel and I would have to do the research. So I would take that extra step to be like, okay, this is all my appointments for the time that I'm here. This is a hotel that's close enough to get me to all those destinations at Central. And it's next to a Whole Foods. And it's at a place where I feel safe and I'm able to exercise and decompress. Because, when you're on the road so much, like that even puts your body at an even more disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're talking about that round table. Can you expand on that a little bit when you're talking to somebody? Because it sounds like I'm picking up what you're laying down, but what is that about?
Yeah. So when we go to a doctor's office, right, we're like waiting for them to tell us like how we should be feeling or what we should do or, what they think. And we trust them. We trust them with their lives. We trust them with their words. And, what's happened is like there's so many sick people that, doctors aren't really trained emotional intelligence. They're trained science. And so what really people need is like time, attention, love, and care, and not necessarily a prescription. And doctors don't have time because there's so many people that are sick and they're not necessarily trained that way. So when I sit down and I listen to people and what they have going on and their specific concerns, I'm like, okay, well, let's build your round table. We have your doctor. We hear what he's saying. So let's take what he's saying and use it as information. And then, if there's someone else that we can include, such as like acupuncture, physical therapy, yoga, you know, me, where we're working on like your relationship with food. It's this round table of people that they build themselves, and they build those relationships based on trust, transparency, love, and care, and by choice, like, and because nobody knows you better than yourself. And it's really me helping to retrain, and helping people become more of an advocate for themselves so that they can tell the doctor, oh no, I need this. I'm coming to you because I want to get this lab result, and then I'm going to go to another person and take those results and discuss it because they actually have the time.
In healthcare, because I feel like in healthcare there's such a way where you'll just go to appointment after appointment for one issue, and have you'll spend 2 months, 3 months trying to get it figured out, and it's just too parceled apart, and what you're talking about sounds like you're helping a person like get right to the source. Let's go right to who we need to for this, so you're not setting an appointment, paying copay after copay through
Right.
Kaiser or whoever it is, and actually getting the answers you need. Because it's a big ring. I'm with you on that. You'll be stuck just trying to get little things. I had stomach pains last year. It turned out to be nothing, but I spent so much money and MRIs and all these things to figure this out, when it was probably something in my diet more related, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Or stress, or it could have been a number of things, but it was probably nothing that a doctor was ever going to be able to be like, you know what, you might need rest, or you might need to drink more water, or eat more vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find stress being a common one? Oh, I'm sorry, Jay.
No stress.
Yeah, stress is huge. Stress management is like the root of all evil. Bad stress management is. And, there are levels of stress. There's acute stress that's necessary for us to do our day-to-day activities. We wake up at whatever time, and at 8 a.m. we have that first dose of cortisol, and that's like getting us ready. But if that doesn't ever like balance and become stabilized, then our body thinks it's always like being chased by a bear, if you will. And so when you're always chronically stressed, like your system is always in overdrive. Excuse me. And that's essentially how people get overweight too, because you're using your most accessible energy, which is sugar. Our body only operates on two sources of energy, sugar and fat. And so the fastest energy is sugar, the most accessible energy is sugar, and then you start to store fat. So usually when you see people that have like bigger midlines, I would say like that's someone that has bad stress management, because that's usually where it stores.
Wow. Yeah. Full of information, Alex.
I know. I'm like trying to stay. I don't want to get too.
She's like, I could nerd out over this stuff, but like,
no, and I'm here for it all. That's why it's great. Yeah.
No, your passion for this is so clear. So, and you kind of started touching on it a little bit, but I'd imagine like your story and like kind of your journey through really like embracing this healthy lifestyle didn't come without challenges. So, just curious, like whatever you want to share, whether you can share with us, a challenge that you've overcome overcame along the way, or maybe what CJ was asking. Are there some common themes in your clients that you work with that you help them overcome?
For me, one of my challenges, and just I'll talk about myself. I think the hardest thing that I've kind of been challenged with recently is motherhood, and just time kind of like just disappears when you become a mom. And the vast reality of being responsible for two or however many someone has, human beings, that's kind of like what motivates me every single day. Is like I have to wake up and be the best version of myself because there's two other people that are like looking up to me. They're watching me. And if I'm sassy and I'm cranky, like trust, like they're giving it to me right back. Like they are my reflection. And like that was overwhelming for me. And it can be overwhelming for me at times because it's like I'm always, trying to keep myself in check. And you know, it might not sound like a challenge, but it's like rebuilding a new identity. And I've had to like shed, a white little a dub. I had like that doesn't exist anymore and it's gone. And I would find myself, we'll call it emotionally eating. Like whether it's like just grabbing for some chocolate or like wanting to go out in a restaurant because it was just like this moment that would bring like absolute presence or an escape. And so instead of like restoring with nutritional healthy foods that would like keeps me running, because that's the other thing is your battery has to keep going like all the time. You have to keep your battery plugged up. So I have to like really check myself and again reflect like, okay, what are you doing with your fork? What are you doing with your fork? Is this going to make you feel better in 20 minutes when you have to like make a whole gourmet meal for your entire family and put them to bed? Or are you going to like just take some deep breaths and bring yourself back and, come from a space of gratitude? So that's one challenge. I think another challenge for me was after giving birth and having a body that like I had never experienced before. I was always fit. I was always, it was never, gaining weight was never an issue or losing weight. I didn't fluctuate. I was an athlete. Like, and so I had to have like a whole another level of self-acceptance in this body that I had no understanding. Like, okay, it motivated me to one, come to a place of like, wow, you just birthed two humans. And then it also brought me to like, okay, this is a challenge. You have goals, so stay focused. And I hit the gym and things just took time. And to come full circle with your question, I think that's the biggest challenge with my clients, particularly men, is time. Like everybody wants like instant results instantly. And it's like, okay, like what is your plan to reach these goals? And have you assessed like what are potential obstacles? And you have these wishes, you have the outcomes of what it would feel like to accomplish those wishes, but then there's these obstacles that are going to come. So when that obstacle comes, what is the plan to overcome the obstacle? And so that's something that I carry every single day, is like I haven't, like being a mom, like anything can happen at any time. And becoming more accepting and also more present it's really changed my life. I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure if that was exactly.
I thought it was
Hey,
beautiful.
absolutely.
Okay.
There's something that you talked about, you kind of glanced over that. I smile because it's not just that. And you said, I just got back to the gym, which maybe for you, it was quite easy, but there's sort of like the, there's a daunting feeling for a lot of people getting
Mm-hmm.
reacquainted with fitness or anything. Were there practices attached to that mindset, or was that something that like was practiced by family, familial? What mindset, do you take into just, all right, I got to get it done? Because truth be told, if everybody thought like that, yeah, it would get done. But so many people,
Mm-hmm.
we find ways to pile up excuses. For you, did you face that at all? Or you just said, today it is, and here I go?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I do have an advantage just based off, my family history and just I started dancing when I was 3. I started running track when I was 6. So, and it wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna prance around in a little tutu or we're just gonna run up a hill. No, this was like
Getting after
some
it.
legit. So it's definitely like within my DNA to like, move my body. But, exercise has a new meaning for me because it's a way for me to transfer and release energy. So aside from wanting to get fit and fit into my old clothes, um, it was also one of the healthiest ways for me to deal with postpartum and like just release energy that I wasn't able to release by like, going out or going out and dancing with my friends or, my life changed. So I really had to look at myself and be like, this is a natural resource. Like, you don't even have to have a gym. Like, you could just go outside and go for a walk and move your body, and the benefits that you feel from that, like, are so much, more amazing than, the reality of me not fitting into my pants. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just exercise doesn't, it's not, I don't exercise to have a certain look to my body. I know that's going to come. Exercise to me is like, this is a way for me to have a healthy mind, have a healthy body, and for me to not pop off on anyone that day.
Yeah, I don't want that. I'm telling you.
Jay, speaking from
From
experience,
experience.
you don't want that. You don't want these hands left or right. Hey,
Well, I'll
yeah,
toss
go
this
ahead,
in
Jay.
there really quickly too, because I have been lucky enough to go out to Miami and visit a few times, and um, I really just want to compliment you, sis, of your I might get emotional, just your commitment to this, and I love what you said when you were talking about your daughters and just keeping your mind on that they're watching you because that's what they're going
Mm-hmm.
to learn, right? And this is going
Mm-hmm.
to change their life. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing I'll throw in there is on the fridge, you you did have the central question of life, love, and leadership as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
that made me think of when CJ was
Yeah.
asking, like, what's your mindset around this? Okay, like,
Mm.
is this going to create some value for me if I'm
Yeah.
smashing ice cream at 2 in the morning? Probably not. But
Yeah. That's definitely always, thank you for bringing that up. That is because I carry that within my practice too, to all my clients is like, when you really want to simplify things, when you really want to channel in and focus on what matters in that moment is, yeah, you ask yourself, what action can I take or what choice can I make to create the most value? And that really like often offers this like tender um moment to like surrender and but like not in an invasive judgmental way, more of a like, you deserve better and everyone else involved deserves better as well.
hmm.
And so yeah, for me it's like, if I'm reaching for chocolates, it's because it's like this temporary distraction when it's like, what do you really need to be distracted from? You really just need to like be present and focus on, the good. And, or if it's not about food, it's like, okay, well, if I'm like aching, I gotta go outside for a walk. And that kind of like goes hand in hand of like being an advocate for yourself. It's like so many mothers, so many people in general, like brush things under the rug far too often, and they don't express what they truly need, and we suppress those emotions. And that's what builds chronic stress, and that's what builds sickness and illnesses, is because there's like such stored toxic energy that you have no way to release if you aren't being your authentic self.
There's something I was picking up when you were talking about that. You can agree or disagree, but it sounds like there's a steady amount of grace and awareness in these moments for you as a mom. I lean specifically into mom, knowing that I don't have two children to take care of, and I know how wild life gets. So, and you talk about how these children are watching everything you do. Are there days that you get so like frazzled per se? And is there
Mm-hmm.
things that like, such as like central questions you ask yourself to bring that back?
Yeah, there's, you know, sometimes there's moments where like I didn't ask myself the central question, and I had a moment where I like yelled at Araya, or like I made a choice that, I regretted 30 seconds after it happened. And um that's where accountability comes in and ownership comes in, because then that's when I like sit, even though she's only 3, but like children have this universal intelligence and awareness that like if I do have a mishap, I sit her down and I have a conversation about it. And I say, I'm sorry I yelled at you, or I'm sorry I said these things. Like, did I hurt your feelings? And I allow her to like express how she feels. And then I say, I'm sorry,
Mm.
I'll work on that. Or I'm sorry, this is why I was feeling like this and I need to do better. So,
Outstanding.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's
I'm
like,
just,
yeah, it's um I can't even just say motherhood, because, I think fatherhood too, because they watch their father too, and I just think back on how like, I was such a daddy's girl, and I watched my dad, and like there are so many like behavioral characteristics that I withhold that are very similar to my dad. And I think like a good dad and a good mom, like they are aware of the impact of their behavior that they display. But I think also like the pressure of like fatherhood and being the provider, and I think it could be just as heavy as, it's might not be as like mentally busy, but I think it's just as heavy as like the transition into motherhood.
Thank you for that insight.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It,
there's a little like, I mean, we care. It's a different experience, but I think there's definitely like a huge shift that happens that can be overwhelming for fathers.
right. Yeah, kind of maybe connecting back to what you were saying earlier, this is a whole rearrangement of your identity, and you
Mm-hmm.
have you have a whole new purpose for being alive, basically.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, it's not that it's the same impact, but it's impactful, like
Mm-hmm.
in very strong ways,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about kind of your personal growth and just this a beautiful journey you've been on, and all the people you that have been so lucky to be helped by you. What's kind of the bigger idea for you as far as bringing some of these practices of holistic integrative health and diet and exercise and all of these things, taking care of your mind, your heart? Like, what do you see, or how do you hope that impacts the world on a larger scale? Like, what's the bigger vision for you?
My impact, that I hope to make to everybody that I encounter is to make them feel like they can be themselves. Because we live in a world where everyone's trying to be someone that they aren't. And I think, that just comes from a lack of love. And, when you sit down and you have a conversation with somebody where they are like, oh, wow, like I can just like be myself, it's contagious and it opens up a little portal from heaven and just allows like angels to resonate and heal in their hearts. And like the more that you have conversations with people like that, I feel the power that I gain. Not that I don't want to gain anything from it, but I feel like the surrendering power that I gain from just allowing people to be who they are instead of like these expectations that like my life story has developed. So yeah, I just want people to be who they are and for me to continue to accept them without my own personal expectations. And that's really simply it. But there's just so much that comes from that. A lot of doors open just from, being like that.
I feel like a lot of this, like you're kind of giving these like golden rules of life that seem so simple to just say, but in action, it's such a different movement to actually get mind, body, and soul to all work together. And I would imagine that your process with some of your clients could perhaps become far more emotional than they maybe thought going into it. Do you see that, since it's seems like it's a lot of self-love and a lot of like you said, suppression and things like that?
Yeah. Well, it's really holding people like accountable and making them aware that they are responsible for their happiness. Because again, from personal experience as a track athlete and a dancer, like track, you can't be number 2. There's no number 2 in track. You're number 1. And a dancer, like you're center stage, you're front and center. And to me, perfection was attainable in art form. And so, but you're always used to a coach or a dance instructor telling you, do this, do that. No, do this, do that. Perfect this, perfect that. You're watching film. Like, so you're really relying on outside sources to confirm what you're doing is right. And that was like probably my biggest obstacle to overcome and realize like, no, if I say I'm doing it right, I'm doing it right. Like, I don't need anybody else to solidify that for me. And so when I talk with my clients and I'm telling them or listening to them and they're waiting for me to give them this whole like diet plan, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you have a better relationship with food. And yes, I'm going to guide you and teach you more sacred ways to eat and understand how to read labels and, teach you how to eliminate. But I'm not going to tell you what to do, because that's what you've been doing your whole entire life, is allowing other people to tell you what to do. And you still end up frustrated. You have to be accountable. You have to be responsible. And, most clients, it works great. There are some clients that are like, I didn't sign up for this. And it does take like 3 months for them to be like, oh, okay, I definitely see where I can change.
Spiritually looking, do you see that the ego then becomes involved with those clients of yours, and like so that like you then take on a different subset of your skills and you're like, oh, I'm dealing with the ego more so than the person that's looking to make this change? They just coming up against a roadblock. Do you find yourself you were starting with food, now I'm wearing the hat of like a spiritual worker as well?
Yeah, so that's where I kind of have to like get careful because um it can become very draining, and sometimes like I usually know if like that's I always do consultations because I usually know right away like, hey, this will be a good fit, and this won't be the best fit. But it it's always spiritual work, but it's for me more so people that don't want to get out of their own way. And that's because the ego is because I had an ego. I had a big ego. I think the ego is easy to tame. I think it's the accountability and allowing and getting people to be like disciplined and accountable and responsible for their own happiness, which is all correlated to the ego. But I think there's a way for it's easier to tame the ego than it is to like teach people discipline.
Yeah, I'm kind of just sitting with this slight smirk on my face because of that sacred space that you talk about. So it's like as a, you know, as a coach as well, like when you watch someone step into the new empowered version of themselves and like really own that part of
Mm-hmm.
accountability and then stepping
Mm-hmm.
into what we know through valuegenic self-leadership responsibility, like you have new
Mm-hmm.
abilities to respond
Mm-hmm.
in the moment, and you've given yourself permission to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
how CJ and I joke about this pretty consistently. I mean, like how it's not funny, so I don't we should probably stop joking about it, but
Oh,
how exhausting how exhausting to do what you're talking about. So as far as living your life based on external
Mm-hmm.
expectations, external needs, have to, shoulds, like you're stepping away from your nature of who you are. Of course you're tired.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you're stressed. Of course, you know, it feels like the world is against you because you're not integrated with your own world. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you brought home that point, and I just wanted to emphasize it again because it's so key in all types of coaching. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, same as what you said. I mean, people will come, you know, like, I want to be a better leader. That's great. Let's work on it. And it typically goes back to let's
Yeah.
get more in touch with you and who you are and
Yeah.
how you're showing up
Mm-hmm.
in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and conscious thought has a lot to do with it too, because you are what you think, and where the mind goes, the body follows. So I think purifying our thoughts because is really also probably the biggest challenge because you know it's really responsive and it's really tied to our ego and it's always looking for comfort, and you have to like get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I think that's what drives fear is because usually when people are uncomfortable it's because there's a lot of change
mm-hmm.
that they don't want to go through.
Let me ask, with as you talk about this, you talked about conscious thoughts, being aware of your thoughts. Are there practices that you have in your daily life that
Mm-hmm.
bring you to the awareness of your conscious thoughts? What's fact, what's fiction, what needs to actually have attention held to it, what can be let go immediately? Are there
Mm-hmm.
practices that help you sift through your thoughts?
Oh yeah, so I have a couple. Yeah,
Please
because
share.
when you become a parent, those thoughts get a little wild. And um, so like mantras all day, like it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like it could just be like, I am at peace, I am at peace, I am at peace. Um, whether you're, going through a transition and just reminding yourself like, I am grateful, I am grateful, I am grateful. I also use intelligent change affirmation cards. I pull one every month or every Monday, and I put it in my bathroom. And every time I go into my bathroom, I see it, and it'll be like I live in a healthy body, or the one on my phone right now is like, my phone's on do not disturb, but I always lift myself up and choose to focus on the good in my life. And then I have a self-care toolbox that I personally built myself. And it's not like a physical box. It's like a mental note of what will help restore me if I'm feeling like I can't overcome my own thoughts. And, it could be simple as like putting on some music. It could be, making a nutritious meal. It could be just like stretching. But yeah, those are some of my practices.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so cool. It's thank you for the reminder too of, as much as we're kind of in this hyper speed world. I mean, just those things that you just mentioned aren't going to completely disrupt your whole day. It's not like you have to take an hour to listen to an uplifting song or stand up and stretch for a few seconds, right?
Yeah,
So,
or even simply
things...
just saying, sorry, like, I hear you thoughts, but you're not welcome. Yeah. You have to be the boss, because our mind gets so imaginative and so wildly creative that you have to be like, tighten up.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and to your point there, I loved what you said earlier. What'd you say? The mind,
where the mind
body
goes,
follows
the
the
body
mind,
follows.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't know better. So if you're not taking back control of those thoughts, your subconscious mind is going to believe everything and go out and search for evidence to make it true. So the opposite can also happen, right? Like if you're telling yourself positive things that are more in line with where you want to be, and that's a powerful practice as well.
My household is sick with a little bug that Araya brought home from school, I have a healthy body. My body has the ability to heal. My body has the ability to heal. And I tell her, I say, Araya, my body has the ability, and then she'll finish it, to heal. It's as simple as that. Like, I have a strong body. Like, anytime I get sick, you just have to remind it, instead of like, oh, I don't feel good. Oh, this sucks. Oh, like, it just has this like energy that your cells are listening to, and it's like, yep, we suck. Yep, we don't feel good. But if you're like, my body has the ability to heal. And along with being proactive, like with, a self-care toolbox or, nourishment, your body does have the innate ability to heal if given half the chance. And it starts up here.
So often it feels like we embellish when we get sick. It's like sort of like we play the game and we lean into it versus the other side of it. The book I was telling you about, the A Return to Love, she was speaking about exactly what you're speaking to. Adhere and not acknowledge the power inside of you first before you start to say I'm sick, because your mind can quickly confirm things for you without evidence other than just a little feeling. And we know how feelings can come and go too.
Yeah. And when we don't have answers, our minds can make up whatever it wants to, if we don't have information, instead of just being like, I don't know. So the mind is powerful.
Yep. Oof. Part two conversation coming soon, because we could go down a whole, so much there. But as we kind of start to wrap up here, I'm just curious, what advice would you give listeners interested in exploring just some of the practices that we've talked about today. What do you have? Words of encouragement? What advice? What would you share?
Eat whole foods, not the store, but eat like real food. And focus on self-acceptance, because self-acceptance is the source of joy. And nobody can ever steal joy from you.
Amen.
That's
Alex, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I want to make sure before we finish this up, you have a plethora of platforms that you're on, but I strongly encourage anybody listening to this to tap into what Alex is doing, because it's not just about a physique. There's so much more that is anchored to what she is preaching in the way that she lives her life authentically and helps others. And I see it here. I've seen it everywhere. I go on social media. I'm like, that salad, I need to make that salad. So if you could, please tell us where people can get in touch with you.
Yes, so my Instagram's the best way to, follow and view what I have going on. And that is at Alex Ayodele _ last name AYODELE. And my website, www.alexayodele.com. Those are the two best. And you can always email me if you want, hello@alexayodele.com. I'm friendly. Don't be scared.
More than friendly. You're awesome. You are amazing. Today was those 3 F's are going to stick with me. The fork, the finger, and the feet. I'm going to remember that for forever. I cannot wait to tell Paula about this.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad. Well, thank you for having me. You guys are the best. I mean, I think this is amazing what you're doing and practicing people. Yes. We practice it every day, and we're the impact. You guys are the impact.
Amen.
So thank you for having me. I feel so honored, and I had fun, and I can't wait to come back again.
Yes. Yeah, we can't wait to have you back, and that's so mutual, and I'm just so proud to be your brother. I deeply mean that, and thank you for making the time, being a mom, holding down a household, all these other things, helping people thrive in life, right? For you to make this time, we're both extremely grateful. So thank you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us today on the Practicing Peoples podcast. We hope you found our conversation inspiring and thought-provoking. We appreciate your support and passion for personal growth and self-improvement.
To help build the Practicing Peoples community, please follow us on Instagram at Practicing Peoples Podcast for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and engaging discussions. Liking and sharing our posts will spread the word about the podcast to others who can benefit from these conversations. You can also reach out to us at our website, www.practicingpeoples.com, for more materials and ways to tap into the community.
Leaving a rating and review on your preferred podcast platform is a valuable way to support us and help potential listeners discover our show.
Remember, personal growth is a journey we embark on together. Let's build a community where we uplift and inspire one another to achieve our true potential.
Thank you for being part of the Practicing Peoples podcast family. And until next time, keep practicing and keep growing.